Here with Mike, Tuesday Talks with Mike, and Freddie, his sidekick.
Good morning, folks. I want to talk about things that make a story work, particularly in a comic book. And one of the things that any story should have is credibility. You have to believe it could really happen for you to enter into the story completely and enjoy it. And just to apply this to movies, this doesn't mean that a story can't be outrageous science fiction or horror. When I watch Alien or Aliens, I believe in them completely because the persons who wrote and directed those films answered every question down to the tiniest detail to make it real. You believe that they're on that ship. You believe the alien is real. When I wrote The Punisher, I approached it as a straight crime comic. And for 3 years, there were no flying saucers, werewolves, time travel, crossovers with Conan the Barbarian or Archie. It was just The Punisher going after criminals. Now, there were some guest appearances from Dr. Doom and the Kingpin and Daredevil, but if you look at those stories, they're all street level. They're all very credible. And one thing I knew is that if we got the hardware wrong, if we showed the Punisher using some kind of fantasy gun that the artist made up out of his head, that would jar the reader right out of the story. Fortunately, we had a great assistant in Elliot R. Brown, who wrote and illustrated the Punisher's catalogs about the weapons he used. What makes a story credible? This is a problem, especially for superhero comics. Superhero comics have a long tradition of presenting outrageous scenarios, situations, and powers that beg credulity. And Superman is perhaps the greatest example of that. You will believe a man can fly. Well, nobody believed a man could fly until Christopher Reeve made his first movie, but Superman captured the imagination of the country at just the right time. The timing was specific. One of the reasons is that it was a reaction against Nazism. And Nazism claimed that the Nazi was the superhuman, and we all know that wasn't true. But those who dealt with the legacy over the years, many fine writers grappled with how to make it credible. And so you have this backstory about how he was born on a different planet, Krypton, and how he was sent to Earth in Krypton's final hours as it was self-destructing. Kevin J. Anderson, the great science fiction writer, wrote a novel about it called The Last Days of Krypton. And if anybody can make it credible, Kevin can. So I recommend that book. But there are a lot of superheroes that are born out of a perverse glee, such as Lobo, for example, or Deadpool. They don't ask to be taken seriously, and so they're not taken seriously. And the material featuring those characters are played for laughs, and that's fine, as long as they don't try to get serious. But when you are creating a superhero of your own, you have to ask yourself, where do these powers come from? And the explanation for powers are as vast and different as the vast range of superheroes that exist today. For instance, The Flash, Barry Allen, the result of a lightning strike. Or the Joker, he has no superpowers, but he was physically changed by falling into a vat of chemicals. Once you get into the physics of superpowers and abilities, there is a way you can go. You can ask the reader to take it on faith, or you can provide just enough of a background that the reader says, yeah, I can buy that. One example is to use phenomenon that we know exist, or we aren't sure does not exist, such as telepathy and telekinetics. Now, as you all know, telepathy is the ability to communicate just by thinking, the ability to communicate with another human being. we have to take this seriously because the United States government has spent millions of dollars studying it. If we were to find out that telepathy is real and that it can be used and it can be codified, it would revolutionize our lives. It would certainly revolutionize military planning or geopolitical planning. So that's a good place to start. I use telepathy in my stories. It's prominent in the new Nexus graphic novel we're about to present called Triplets, about 3 kids who were triplets. They're all born at the same time and enjoy a perfect mind meld, which means that whenever one child wishes to communicate with the other two, all he or she has to do is concentrate on that other person and send their thoughts. This makes them extremely valuable to a crime cartel, especially a crime cartel spanning stars. Right now we have a differential between when the Hong Kong Stock Exchange opens and when the Manhattan Stock Exchange opens. And that differential has enabled people to take advantage of the system by planning somebody at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange who notes a change in a stock's value or perceived value and immediately calls up a partner in the Western Hemisphere, which is 12 hours away at least, and says, be on the lookout for that. So Crime Cartel kidnaps the 3 triplets and plants them on 3 widely separated planets, and their job is to transmit numbers back to Earth as they are told, thereby getting a huge jump on the financial system. Telekinesis is another power that may or may not exist. Certainly we've had flim-flam artists over the years pretend to move things with their mind alone. Many people may not be familiar with Uri Geller. Uri Geller was a flim-flam man of the 20th century who claimed that he could bend spoons just by thinking about them. I don't know how he did it. I've actually never seen a film of him doing it. But we all know the legend of Uri Geller because he was such an outrageous figure. So when you're writing your story, be it hard-boiled crime or science fiction, one of the challenges you face is, how can I make the reader enter into this completely so that an obvious anomaly or impossibility doesn't jar him out of the narrative? And that's the secret to telling a credible story. Now, a story, of course, has to have a lot more than simple credibility to grab a reader. You have to have style, you have to have dynamics, personalities, situations, all that. But for me, credibility is one of the most important jobs.
All right. Very informative. Anything else you would like to share with your listeners?
Well, I've been over the importance of the hat time and again.
Yes.
But I will just add that there are 2 very good reasons always take a hat like this. One is to keep the sun out of your eyes, and the other is to keep yellow jackets out of your drink. And you do that by putting the hat on top of your drink.
All right. Very good. Well, we will continue this series generally on Tuesdays, unless his videographer, which is me, doesn't have time. But anyway, thank you for listening. Subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment, keep everything positive. Thanks so much for listening.